Good morning, and thank you for attending today's conversation focused on the partnership Seneca and Kingbridge Center have recently announced. My name is Chris Dudley, and I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship at Seneca. Seneca and the Kingbridge Center are collaborating to create an innovation hub. The goal is, through sharing resources and business development and applied research, Seneca and Kingbridge Center will help companies solve critical challenges related to technology, infrastructure, and sustainability. This partnership will provide programming to support entrepreneurs in building and scaling businesses in agriculture, food production, and the green economy, with a focus on helping grow businesses right here in the York region. For today's conversation, we'll be joined by Seneca's President, David Agnew, and Prashant Pathak, Chairman, Kingbridge Center. A little later on, His Worship Stephen Pellegrini, Mayor of King Township, will join the conversation. Mr. Agnew became Seneca's fifth president in July 2009. Since then, Seneca has expanded its offerings in both undergraduate and graduate programming and experienced record growth in enrollment. He has decades of executive leadership experience from roles including Secretary to the Cabinet and Head of Public Service in the Government of Ontario, and President CEO of UNICEF Canada. Prashant Pathak is the Chair of Kingbridge Center and has been CEO of Agrada Incorporated since 2006. He is also the principal of In Color Capital, founder of Solar Investment, and sits on the board of directors for Mars Discovery District. His Worship, Stephen Pellegrini, Mayor of King Township, was elected in 2010 and is currently serving his third term as mayor. Prior to being elected mayor, Mr. Pellegrini was Ward 1 councillor in King. He currently sits as the Toronto Region Conservation Authority's board of directors. I'm very much looking forward to this dialogue, and without further delay, I turn it over to President David Agnew to start this important conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. And listen, I just want to say from the outset on behalf of Seneca that we're so delighted to partner with Kingbridge on innovation, applied research, focusing on particularly the green economy, entrepreneurship. But Prashant, now, as generous as Chris's introduction was, it still understated your accomplishments. I mean, IIT engineering graduate, INSEAD, MBA, a partner in McKinsey, an investor with exquisite timing, I have to say, and an entrepreneur with a truly global vision. Was it a green path to Kingbridge? How did you get to Kingbridge?
How we got to Kingbridge is a pretty circuitous path, David. It has many things in life, which is, what's the phrase that life happens when you're making other plans. So the path to Kingbridge is fascinating in the sense that about 10 years ago, we basically commissioned a piece of research, as you said, given my McKinsey background. And the focus of the research was, what would it take for us to make long-term investments with long-term decision horizons? And the area where we pushed ourselves is we said, we really want to be owning, building, investing in ideas with a 26 plus years view. So that actually journey started in Southwest Ontario, where we were looking at the food and agri belt about 15 years ago when food investing and ag investing was not that cool as it is today. And basically when we started on that path, John Abley, who, as you know, is the previous chair and founder of Kingbridge and continues with us in a role as chair emeritus. John and I had a chance meeting at a dinner table. We got to know each other. And basically we started brainstorming at Kingbridge what it would take to create the notion of an experimental campus. And the fact is you essentially have this piece of infrastructure, you bring together the best minds and most resourceful people and experiment. And so that journey, John and I started collectively about 12, 14, 15 years ago, David. And as you know, earlier this year when John retired, he entrusted the ownership and transferred the leadership to me. I took on as chair. So that's kind of, it's a circuitous path on investing for the long term, food, ag, environmental related areas, which led us to where we are with Kingbridge today.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, what is the kind of work that you've done previously in agriculture? And you mentioned Southwest Ontario, of course, which is in some ways, it's kind of the food basket of Ontario. It's got a great climate and so on. How do you see bringing that to the King and the York region setting?
Yeah. So David, good observation in the sense that what aspects of the food, ag, and energy ecosystem of the value chain can benefit from these ideas. So when we started looking at food ecosystems, not just Southwest Ontario, but globally, David, through this research we commissioned, one of the things we found was in the broader value chain from a sustainability standpoint, about 18 to 20% of the problem, which is defined as FLW, food loss and waste. A lot of times people see food loss as an environmental problem and food waste as, call it a food security, human security problem, the equity issue and all that stuff. We clubbed the two together and we realized that 18% to 20% of that FLW problem globally, and let's say between 13 to 15% in North America and Europe, could be attributed to what we call infrastructure-related deficiencies, gaps, or mismatches. So those would be things like harvesting time losses, post-harvest losses, storage losses. So we approached it from an infrastructure standpoint, David. What do you do on-field? What do you do off-field? What do you do in storage systems, temperature control systems? So Kingbridge, one of the things which we have found is, given the campus we have and the York region, and the mayor and you are all located in that region, you see King region, York region is a big basket for fresh production of food products and crops. So the three areas we're looking at is saying, what are the infrastructure, technology related ideas, solutions that can be experimented at Kingbridge in partnership with folks like Chris and his team and the Helix guys to trial them at scale, David. The key is really that's a keyword, trialing them at scale using the campus you guys have, the 700-acre plus the campus we have, to test those ideas off from the technology, infrastructure, and solution standpoint. That's the portable part of the experience.
No, it's very exciting, and I have to say, I mean, I really look forward to the opportunity to really use you mentioned our campus. It's 700 acres. It's in the beautiful Oak Ridges Moraine area of King, but of course it's also when we bought it many years ago, it was a working farm. So it has fields, it has its own infrastructure that will be terrific for innovation as well. Of course, with lots of woodlands and a kettle lake. So it's really kind of the whole ecosystem. But speaking of ecosystem, this is there's a strong ecosystem on innovation within York region already, and even more broadly. And it was mentioned, of course, you are involved with Mars, so you're well familiar with the Ontario ecosystem of regional innovation centers, of course, Venture Lab in York region, and so on. How do you see Kingbridge and our partnership fitting in with that kind of broader ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship?
Yeah. The way I see the Kingbridge Seneca collaboration coming together with the rest of the ecosystem, David, is so there is a philosophical way and there is a practical way. The philosophical way is at Kingbridge Center, as some of you know who have visited us in the past, we have spent enormous time to study the problem of collaboration, why and how stakeholders collaborate, when it is done well, and what are the conditions when it is not done well. So we are approaching it, first of all, at that intellectual, philosophical level, saying, what is required for ecosystem stakeholders to collaborate? Then coming it down to the pragmatic level, the way we are approaching it with Chris and Ben and some of your extended team, David, is really looking at problems that can be translated into solutions. And one aspect which came up early in our dialogues between us, Kingbridge and Seneca, was the whole notion of industry relevance, which is something you guys do very well. We said basically, what is Kingbridge Center? It's an industry relevant piece of infrastructure which can mimic a small community. And how we'll draw on, so let's say we draw on Venture Lab, or we'll draw on the high-tech stakeholders or community you have in the York region. For example, as you know, we are experimenting planting of 1,000 endemic species to say, can you actually create a tree propagation program? Having launched that already in the first 3 weeks, there are 3 or 4 things that are evident to us. One is huge amounts of data capture, data analysis, and data observation is required. You know, things you guys are doing at Dark, but many other, your data analysis research center and many other organizations are doing it. A lot of sensor, device, and high-tech equipment is required for monitoring it, whether it is IoT related or wireless related, those kind of systems. So that's where we see a lot of the ecosystem partners, whether it's Venture Lab, the Koffler Center, fitting in, because what we want to do is really identify in situ industry deployable solutions where you can actually see a practical outcome in the field, no pun intended. So that's where the integration happens with the Seneca and the Kingbridge partnership. Is you all, for the lack of a better word, I would say, bring in the research, data, evidence-based skills, focus students. Kingbridge provides the experiment design, industry relevance, the actual industry problem, and then we would draw in the ecosystem partners for the relevant kind of elements of the solution, David.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, everything that I've ever experienced in that kind of innovation world and entrepreneurship world is the more the merrier. I mean, the more ideas that are at the table, the more partners you can engage. It just, you just never know where a great innovation or a great idea is going to come from, and we've certainly found that with our students, and that's particularly why I look forward to our partnership, because it can give them a great expression. And speaking of that, I mean, part of the great number of assets that you bring to the table is your kind of global reach and your global network, your global connections, because that seems to have been such a strong feature of your business life. Is that something that comes now with the partnership in terms of and what you bring to King and York region?
Absolutely, David. Absolutely. In fact, there are 2 or 3 things, like, and I have the benefit of observing it from different vantage points. Is very often we, as Canadians, we develop Canadian innovations, but our domestic market, our regional markets, may be sufficient enough to build a proof of concept. Now, when you get to scalability, you may have to reach beyond our international, borders. So what we see is Ekagrata, our parent investment firm, and our existing portfolio of business and operations internationally, playing a role in one of 2 or 3 ways. Way number 1 would be the whole evidence-based work that we are doing here may be immediately applicable or relevant to other parts of the world where there is a customer seeking for that, specific solution. So one example I'll give you is water and wastewater treatment. And, when I was looking at the Seneca research portfolio, some of the work that's done in the York region, Mayor Pellegrini and I had chatted when he visited us. The whole notion of water and wastewater management, yes, it is a immense Canadian opportunity and a problem to be solved, but that has got far-reaching international implications, much, much more. Like, for example, we have businesses in India. I originally come from there. Wastewater handling and water-related diseases contribute to more than 1/3 of hospital admissions. Like, wow. Even outside of the pandemic, that becomes immediately relevant. The notion of using biotechnology for sentinel-based sensors in wastewater plants is something that, if we were to trial something here, that has got global relevance, international relevance very, very quickly, David. And, those are, I don't want to broaden, I can talk about it broadly, but very specifically, those are things in the remit, in the ambit of a Seneca, Kingbridge, and the other ecosystem partners in King and York region. That is something we can, I would say, comfortably deliver on.
No, and I mean, the global market is huge. We're in clean tech and so many other, as you were talking earlier, agricultural innovations, agribusiness, agri-food. So it's the world is our oyster if we know how to approach it and frankly take advantage of it. Now,
just one more point. I'll just interrupt you, but what excited me on the international side is also your student body. Is highly international. So these young people or older people, I don't want to be classifying the student as young, they can be older students, they may come with international problems and ideas from their jurisdictions where they may see Seneca, Kingbridge, York region as a petri dish to solve the problem they had back home wherever they came from. So there's a little bit of the harnessing of the talent that you guys are attracting, which is coming with those use cases, if I use that word, at your campus.
No, 100%. As Chris can tell you, at Helix, we have a wonderful engagement of our international students. Absolutely. In fact, one of our earliest, when we set up Helix a few years ago, one of our earliest ventures was an invention to completely created by students to capture water in drought areas. A remarkable lotus flower that opens up automatically to catch water. Anyway, it's the ingenuity is extraordinary. We're living. We hope in the we're over the crest of the pandemic, but still very much with us now. But I mean, how do you see the way that we've been living and working and collaborating changing sort of on a permanent basis when it comes to the kind of innovation and ecosystem of innovation? Do you think that we're going to be doing things differently? Do you think we'll be more virtual when it comes to collaborating and creating partnerships, or do you think we're going to snap back to everybody in person? Because we've never met and we've never laid eyes on each other.
Yes,
and yet we've got a great partnership going.
Yeah. David, the pandemic has been tough. It is hard. People have had losses, but I also believe I think it is going to force us as individuals, human beings, managers, executives to look at and say, how to make the best of a tough situation. And as you said, we from a Kingbridge perspective, I shared with Lisa Gilbert, our general manager, I said we can't let the constraints of the pandemic limit our ability to push the boundaries of what we can be doing to enrich, our professional lives, our, personal lives and all that stuff. So I see the pandemic kind of, when we get past it or get through it, impacting us in 2 or 3 ways. Number one is what you said. There is an acceptability of the notion that collaboration will happen despite physical boundaries. Like if this discussion started, we have had discussions across the globe where things have progressed where we have not met each other. So that's one aspect of it. That is not to say everything will happen in the digital or the virtual world. There is a need for physicality because at the end of the day, we all live in the physical and the real world. We don't live on our computers. So there is an interconnect that has to happen in that manner. So the second aspect which I'm finding, David, is there is a transformation of how people will execute projects on the ground responsibly while we are in the pandemic and even post-pandemic. So the notion of what element of modular manufacturing or modular problem solving can be done such that intact teams in location A and location B can solve the problem. And then when the product comes together, it is in, call it a COVID safe environment, or it is in a COVID appropriate behavioral environment, or even whether it's a meeting design or the problem solving design, or even the interaction design is being done in a COVID appropriate manner. So that will happen during the pandemic. Post pandemic, I actually see, David, that the benefits of the pandemic restrictions will stay on and they will strengthen. And once, people are back to physically interacting, meeting, those benefits will be sustained. So the notion of digital collaboration, the notion of data mobility, which is a big thing we have seen at Kingbridge, and even in our own problem solving between the Chris and Ben and your team and our team, a lot of data transfer has happened digitally. They have not met physically.
Yep.
But that doesn't stop them from solving the actual on-the-ground problem. So that benefit of behavioral change will be sustained even post-pandemic, David. I see that kind of as more of an enabler going forward.
No, that's great. Well, let's bring the mayor in, Mayor Pellegrini. But as we're doing that, let me just say sort of a thank you to you and Kingbridge for your amazing generosity. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but Kingbridge has been a shelter for homeless for now over a year, and that's just an extraordinary gesture and an amazing contribution of you and your team to the community. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, David. You and Mayor and everybody else, we really appreciate it, and it's a privilege to be there.
Well, wonderful. Well, Mayor Pellegrini, I have to ask you, what is it about King that attracts world-class entrepreneurs. First, John Abely, and now Prashant. You must be delighted.
I'm ecstatic. I'm so excited to have two of our, I call you guys the jewels within the crown of King, collaborating together to help the residents of not only King but York Region and abroad. This is an incredible partnership that I'm ecstatic to help foster in any way. And Prashant and I we've had the pleasure of meeting, and it is, as you said, something with the pandemic. It's been difficult, but everybody's moving forward, which is awesome.
No, absolutely. Now, I mean, so I've heard you talk about how King is really kind of the best of both worlds. It's such a beautiful municipality, a beautiful countryside, and yet also, a great place to do business. So how does the sustainability agenda fit into King's vision for the future?
Well, perfectly. In 2012, we embraced and formulated our first sustainability plan, which was 4 pillars, not the 3, 4: economics, environmental, social, cultural, and financial. And David, you touched on it. King is incredibly well situated, not only economically, but it is 66% moraine and 33% greenbelt. We are 99% protected.
Wow.
And talk about an amazing environmental place.
That's extraordinary. And I mean, talk to me a little bit about the importance of having an actual innovation hub in the community. I mean, this is something absolutely. I mean, I know that you're a big supporter of entrepreneurship and innovation, but now something right in the community, at the heart of the community.
Well, it aligns perfectly with our strategic priorities, being a green and a sustainable community. We've pushed on climate action. We've doing greening strategies. Last night they did, we'll call it an update on how we're doing. And even through the pandemic, we're on track. 93% of our initiatives are getting done. And it's through innovation and doing things in different ways to achieve these goals.
Well, I mean, let me ask the same question of you that I asked Prashant. I mean, do you see the pandemic sort of making permanent changes to the way that we're working as a community? Whether it's the way that you're doing your business as a municipality into the future, the kinds of businesses that are going to be possible in King now without maybe such a big footprint as in the past.
Oh, absolutely. This has forced ingenuity. Like every employee now, we've either relocated, they're working from home, their jobs have changed. Now, much of this will go back, hopefully, when there's some normality that we get to, but it won't all change. We've redone our website. We've brought on e-commerce and different things to help people. They're awesome initiatives that have propelled the municipality, and businesses are the same. Every day I hear about different businesses that have pivoted and have done great. Just a small example would be Tally Towels. She used to go to all these trade shows. Well, guess what? She pivoted and started making masks and different things like that, if not, they're going to close up their doors. So people have done great things.
No, it's amazing what the mother of invention, right? Necessity. When you switch from you can't do that to you have to do that, it literally overnight. It's amazing what human beings are capable of. If you weren't from King and you just drove through it and kind of knew it by reputation, I don't think you'd think about it as a place with a an entrepreneurial business community. It's those beautiful rolling hills and farms, as you say, wonderful protected. So what does King Township do to help those who want to be establishing businesses, setting up there?
We're small but mighty. We have incredible economic development resources. Prashant has already met Jamie Smythe, who is our economic development officer. Amy is there as well. So we have 2 full-time dedicated resources. Our Chamber of Commerce, we are very aligned, and it's a great partnership. And again, I tell people sometimes small is mighty because you are very agile, nimble. You can address needs and pivot very quickly, and we can help. We've got one-stop shop resources. We roll out the red carpet, and when you're small, you get the frontline approach, and you get the mayor walking you right up to the front door too.
Well, I won't speak for Prashant, but I have to tell you that your support of Seneca, the council support, your administration support in general has been fantastic. We just love being there, and we've been there since 1971, and look forward to many, many, many more years. So thank you for your support of us. Thank you for the support of this partnership. Thank you, Prashant, so much for everything that you are doing. This is very exciting. As they said in a famous movie, it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So just delighted to have you on today. And Chris, throw it back to you.
Thank you, David, and Prashant and Mayor Pellegrini for your insightful conversation. And thank you to our viewers for joining us today to hear more about the Seneca-Kingbridge partnership. If you have any additional questions about the partnership, please feel free to contact Karen DeBow at Kingbridge Center or Ben Rogers at Seneca. We look forward to sharing additional information and results on the different initiatives being advanced through this innovative partnership as we move forward. Please note this discussion will be available through our respective channels. Thank you for listening today, and have a great day.